Hello everybody, JGC Anime here, and today we are going to be reviewing The Disastrous Life of Saiki K. Why? Because that was voted on my original channel's poll, so that's what we're going to talk about today. So yeah, let's hop right into this. So, what is The Disastrous Life of Saiki K? Basically, what this show is about is there's this boy who was born with superpowers, and unlike everyone else who are normal, he's just trying to go about his life living a normal, calm life, despite the fact having superpowers. So while he tries to keep his powers hidden, he's trying to live his own life and trying to avoid, actually interacting with people and making sure everything works out in his favor, and just trying his best to live his life without actually causing any commotion and staying in the middle ground all the way through. Being your average teen is what he's aiming to be. So yeah, it's kind of like the whole story, and a bunch of shenanigans ensue, a lot of really funny characters, and a really interesting story. And I think it has a lot of really good moments, but I'm going to talk about that stuff. So, first, I'd have to say what I like. I really like the characters in this. I think they're really good, and honestly, really funny. While there are some characters that are a bit more annoying than others, I do generally find these characters and this whole setup to be really funny. And I can't think of a single episode where I didn't laugh out loud at least once or twice. Because normally I don't laugh out loud at almost anything, but these episodes always had something that made me laugh. It is one of those TV shows that's like 4-minute episodes and they all just get pushed together into a 24-minute episode. But all those shorts are very funny and I actually really enjoyed them. I really do like a lot of the characters because there's this... Literally all these different characters exist in the series. Some good, some bad. Like, I'll go into the bad ones in a minute, but ones I'd have to think of that are good, probably one of them would definitely be, of course, the main character, Saiki. His personality is really funny because he's just this calm, much like, oh my gosh, can you all please ignore me situation, like this whole surrounding aura on him, and it's just really funny. And then he also has a friend called Nendo, who is a really funny character. I really like Nendo as a character. He's a bit annoying at times, but I do find him to be generally enjoyable. There are a lot of also other interesting side characters. While he does have Nendo as like his main friend, he has a bunch of other friends, like of course one who's kind of like those kids who are like, I studied the dark arts and I'm powerful. Like those, one of them is one of those types of characters are there, and it's really funny. Then there's the most perfect girl who's actually the not so perfect girl situation. And just the way she interacts with Saiki is absolutely hilarious because she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so pretty, so you're just gonna be all falling in head over heels for me and I'm just the most perfect person ever. And then Saiki just kind of blows her off, and to the point where it ends up leading into her thinking that she was in love with him, and it was just this. This all happens in the first episode, so it's kind of not spoiling too much. But it's definitely funny. I do like a lot of these characters. And while there are some other characters that I really don't care for, like this character whose name I can't remember right now, but he's like this super muscular, like energetic guy who's always trying to inspire the other students. He's fine. I think he's okay, but I never really found his character that amazing. I was also not that huge of a fan of Saiki's brother, because Saiki is, Saiki K. I wasn't a big fan of his brother. He's basically like Saiki, only he's just like a super genius, but he doesn't have superpowers. He's just a super genius. And I don't know, it wasn't that awesome to me. I didn't think he was that great. But he was fine, I guess. Like, there's no bad characters in this show. Most of them are just fine. Like this other character who's a magician and comedy act. He also just kind of is there. He pops up a lot, and it's really nice seeing all these reoccurring side characters, but still doesn't change the fact that I kind of didn't care about some of those plot lines. But in terms of disliking, I don't think I generally dislike that much. The only thing I could generally think of that I dislike from this show would probably be the Season 2 dub. Because this currently has 2 seasons, one with 24 or something episodes and one with 6 episodes. Yes, Season 2 only has 6 episodes, not being released currently. Just, it's only got 6 episodes. I don't know why. And I just in season 2 they completely recast everyone for some reason. I don't know why they did that. Like the charm and the comedy and stuff is all still there. Like all the comedy stuff's still there to watch, but just without the same voice actors, it's not the same. I'm talking about the dub. Yes, I watched the dub of the show, and I really liked season 1, the dub. But when they completely changed all the voice actors in season 2, it was jarring to say the least, since it feels like they were just trying to imitate the original voice actors instead of just bringing them back to have them voice the characters again. I don't know why they didn't just bring them back, but they decided, you know what, let's just cast everybody new and make them sound as close to the originals as possible. And it made it really hard to sit through season 2. That's why I've only watched 2 episodes, because the comedy is still there. Like everything else is still there, but when the voices are gone, it just doesn't work. It just feels so wrong to watch a show with a different voice actor when it doesn't feel right. Like, there are some good examples of voice actor changes, like from the show Ninjago. I don't know if people have heard it. It's called Lego Ninjago. It's a cartoon that's like Lego created. It's very popular, has like 11, 12 seasons. And right halfway through it, they released like 8 seasons in, they replaced one character's voice actor because he had to grow up, and the voice actor sounded really good. I actually thought the voice change was really well done. So voice acting changes like that are fine because they only change like 1 or 2 voices. But when you change the entire cast and just try to make them imitations of the original without trying to make them your own, it's pretty weird. And I generally did not enjoy the whole dub voice change, and it didn't stick. I definitely don't recommend season 2. But in spoiler-free thoughts, I thought season 1 was absolutely phenomenal. I think it was funny. It was really like silly. I always laughed every episode. It had a lot of really good moments. Like whenever there was one bad joke, there was always a good joke to replace it. And definitely one of my favorite things of this show is definitely how in the show Saiki K is like everywhere. He's everywhere. He doesn't even have to be there, but because of the fact that he's a psychic or like with superpowers, he knows everything that's going on in the show, so he can always just have a say in things, and it's just really funny. But I can't really say that much. I've already spoiled like 1 or 2 things, and I'm sorry for that, but we're about to go into the actual spoiler section to talk a little more in detail about some of the stuff. Here is a timestamp to when the spoiler section will be concluded, and we'll be moving on to the conclusion to give my final rating. If you have seen the show, I'd recommend sticking around to the spoiler section to hear a few more of my thoughts, but if you haven't seen the show, then I'd recommend moving on to the conclusion, because, you know, I try to keep things as spoiler-free as possible on these reviews. So, we're moving into the spoiler section. I'm going to count down from 5. If you're still here after that, you're entering the spoiler section. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So, in terms of spoiler talk, I generally have to say, I think that Nendo was there's also an episode where Nendo is turned to stone by accident from Saiki, and it did that thing, cartoons, where by the next episode he's completely fine. That was a weird episode. It seems like almost any episode focusing mainly on the character Nendo is really, really weird. And yeah, as mentioned before with the beauty girl, her name's Teruhashi, I think. Hopefully I pronounced that right. She's a fine character. I know a lot of people find her annoying. I think she's hilarious when she's like being all in love with Saiki, but any other time she definitely is a very annoying character. But I think she's a fine character, but she doesn't have that many great episodes. Like, she was the main focus of this one plot line where she accidentally plucked out one of the antennas on Saiki's head to keep his powers under control, and because of that, he has to convince her that because she saw his superpowers, he had to pretend that she was dreaming, and this whole plot line of him trying to get his antenna back and have to convince her that she was dreaming this whole time. Yeah, that was one of the most weak episodes. Not a bad episode. It was a weaker episode. I definitely didn't care for it. And Teruhashi was just she's a fine character. I think she's just fine, nothing amazing. And there's this other girl, I can't remember her name right now. Why am I struggling to remember so many characters' names? I can't remember. She's like this bob cut type orange-haired girl who randomly falls in love with random guys throughout the entire series. First being in love with Saiki, then being in love with this random guy, then being in love with the friend who, I can't remember his name either. I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue, but yeah, he's like a guy with white hair that believes in this darkness of all that evil stuff or something like that. She fell in love with him for a bit, but she also fell in love with Saiki again, but then fell back in love with the white-haired guy again. There's also this really annoying character who even I can't stand. He's like this guy who can see spirits, and the episodes that give him any focus, or the spirits in the world any focus, I found kind of weird and not exactly fun to sit through. It's like anytime Saiki K just had a funny time and just goofed off with the whole concept of a psychic, I really enjoyed it. Whenever it tried to be serious or create some actual plot, it got boring really fast. And there was also a few confusing episode. Like, even though the show is really good at the fourth wall breaks, because personal opinion, I love fourth wall breaks, there was this really weird 100th comic episode where, even though it was only a few episodes into the anime, it was the 100th comic of Saiki K that had been released, so they made a joke about that. That was probably one of the weirdest episodes to me. I just didn't understand it, and I was just thinking, what? It was really weird, and I know I'm listing a lot of random stuff right now, but another thing I'd probably have to say is really weird about this show is definitely its first opening. Its second opening is absolutely amazing for the show. It sounds exactly what the show should represent, which is like this energetic, popish type, fun music that I really, really thought was funny, and I enjoyed it. But the first one was just like this calm, soothing melody, and I just thought, wait, am I watching the right show? And just the theme song is so different from the actual show that it felt really off. But I think it was fine, but the second opening for the second half of the series was definitely a lot better. Although the ending for the first half was much better for endings. Even though I don't watch that many endings, I do stick around for some of them if I really like them. As for thoughts on every single character, I think most of them are, as I mentioned before, I think most of them are fine. But I'd have to say definitely my favorite character would probably have to be Saiki. Because of his attitude towards everything, it's too perfect, and I absolutely love it. Like how everyone else thinks it's a big deal or freaking out, he's just like, okay, but there's that, or something like that. He's just, and the funny thing is, because Saiki is a psychic, he mainly only narrates in his head, even though he's still generally talking. So, because of that, he can be easily dubbed over because, he doesn't have a mouth moving, so you can literally have him say anything and it would sound exactly like what you'd think he'd say. It's really good, and I do really like that aspect of Saiki K. So there's a lot of stuff I could say about the show that would sound weird to mention right now because, well, it's just random gibberish. But I found a lot of moments in the show to be either beyond hilarious or just plain out boring. I definitely didn't care that much for a later episode when it's revealed that his grandfather is a tsundere who loves his daughter, and his grandson hates his daughter's husband, really doesn't like him, but he's like the tsundere type, and well, it did have some moments that I thought were decently good with his character. I definitely didn't care for the grandparents in the show as much as I was actually looking forward to them when I first saw them on screen. It really wasn't super amazing. That's why I was pretty glad when they left, because they really didn't bring anything great to the show. Just it seems like anyone related to Saiki's family other than his parents were really kind of mediocre to me. I just thought that exploring more of his friendship with his fellow classmates was more interesting than getting to know his family. And I generally think that the show did better with those aspects than with his family's aspects. That's all I can really say because I feel like I'm just spouting gibberish right now. Anyway, so we're at the conclusion of this little Saiki K review, and what are my thoughts? I think the show is actually really funny. I could tell it's trying to be a comedy because there's so many laugh out loud moments, and I highly recommend it for people who haven't seen it yet because it's a generally really funny show. Lots of really good characters, a few mediocre ones, a few mediocre storylines, but there's nothing about this show that's bad. Besides season 2, which I've yet to catch up on because I just can't stand the new voice actors who voice them in season 2's dub. I know that sounds like a dumb excuse, but once you listen to a certain voice actor voice a role, hearing a new one is definitely awkward. But I liked season 1. I really enjoyed season 1 more than a lot of shows nowadays, and I think it's definitely a top recommended TV show to watch for me at least. I rate Saiki K an 8 out of 10. I think it's really good, and I actually really recommend it to people who want a good laugh. I enjoyed it, and I think other people will enjoy it too. Thank you all for listening to my review, and if you want more reviews, let me know. I'm planning to make more of these at least once every other week, and that's what I'm planning to, and I shall see you all around. Peace!